So today we're very, very fortunate to have Cary Hatch with us, who is, she's a wonderful person. I gotta say, I didn't know her that well until I joined LGW, but I have been very happy, very pleased, just very impressed with getting to know Cary. She's one of my favorite people, and I'm so glad that she's with us today to sort of talk about life, what's been going on with her company, and how she sees things changing once we get through the pandemic. So, and I know it's a difficult day outside. It's January 6th. There's a lot going on in DC right now. So thank you to all of you for joining us for this conversation. And let's hope everything settles down on the Hill. So anyway, Cary, good morning. I'm sorry, good afternoon. Welcome. And first, how are you feeling? How's your health? How's your family's health? How's your staff's health? How are you weathering the COVID?
Well, thanks, Doug. Thanks for the kind words. I'm humbled by those words as well. We're doing quite well. It feels odd to say that a bit, given some of the activities around us, and when we look at some of the impact to other industries and other colleagues and other friends, particularly when we think about health and safety and economic recovery and what have you. But we've been, I would say, by and large, part of the fortunate few, and I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. This time we got lucky, not so much in previous downturns and matters, whether it's 9/11 or anthrax or the 2008 economic crisis and what have you. But we've been quite fortunate. Our staff, our families are healthy. For the most part, we've even been able to shoot television commercials remotely and make that work. So it's there's bright spots, but I'd be foolish to say that it's not trying. For sure, it has consequences, real consequences, but we've been fortunate and we've hung together as a team and helped support each other through this.
So it's been almost 10 months now that we've been in sort of quarantine or working from home, or as we like to say now, living at work situations. So what was the change like when the shutdown hit, and how's it affected your business? How's it affected your industry? And I see a lovely office space behind you. I do want to talk about that later, though, and get into some of the decisions you made since you've been going through this.
It's interesting. March 13th, we've been closed since March 13th in our regular agency. We had a full floor, as you probably recall, about 2 blocks from the White House. We've since moved, and I'm happy to talk about that. But, I think back on that time, and an eternal optimist am I. So I said to myself and to my team, this will be over by May, and we'll be back on track. And I look back at that and I feel a bit foolish. On the other hand, I was the person who said the rock group Kiss would never succeed. So I've been wrong before. This certainly has a different magnitude and resonance to it. But, interestingly enough, I think you find out a lot about yourself and your team and your staff and your family. And you recognize what it really takes in terms of not just resilience, but grit. So many times in prior downturns, you're probably aware that, I acquired this company at the ripe age of 30, when we all know how to run companies and understand what payroll taxes are. But, going through some of those challenges really doesn't hold a candle to where we're at right now. I was talking to a fellow entrepreneur the other day and sharing that the one thing that really is different here is the feeling of a free fall, the fact that it's never ending and the hits just keep coming. Whereas in some other downturns and obstacles and challenges that we faced over the decades, you knew that there was recovery. It was 6 months, it was 12 months, it was 18 months out. But not being able to plan and the uncertainty that's associated with where we are today as a society and where we are today in terms of COVID have been particularly trying. So I do find that I have been pleasantly surprised. My team I'm so blessed to be surrounded with people that have a determination that I don't think I recognized before. And I try to make sure that I celebrate that regularly.
So let's go back in time a little bit and talk about when you bought the company and some of the struggles that you went through to make it the success that it is today, and some of the challenges that you face and the discrimination that you face. Do you mind sharing some of those stories with us?
It's interesting. It seems so far back, but some real interesting lessons and into personal challenges as well. I mean, I can remember I was fortunate enough to join this firm when I was 24, and I bought it at 30. So I helped grow the company for a bit, expanded. We actually opened up 2 other organizations as well, and eventually the owner, Michael David Brown, said to me, if you're feeling overextended, would you consider buying one of the companies? And I thought, wow, I'm young, I'm single. If I fail, so what? So that made a lot of sense to me at the time. And I, as most entrepreneurs do, many do, they go to their families and borrow money. And I borrowed $10,000 from my parents to buy my company. And I quickly learned what cash flow was and that I needed more funding to sustain that, because we went from 200,000 to 1.2 million in 1 year in fees, and have never looked back since. It's one of the more interesting and I think fond memories for me when I think about the nature of the challenge. I don't think I really recognized what the headwinds would be. But in retrospect, I read something that's, I think, puts it in perspective. Um, Fear of failure can make some people catatonic. For me, it energizes me. And I think that's really been the thread that has pulled me through to today, no matter what the headwind was. Um, my good fortune in surrounding myself with such honorable and talented professionals, joining organizations like Leadership Greater Washington and the 4As, the American Association of Advertising Agencies, where I could learn from others, have role models that really have sustained me through the years. No matter being a woman-owned company or otherwise, there have been people that have helped me along the way, and I'd like to think that I'm helping others along the way as well.
So as a woman-owned company, what are some of the disadvantages that you faced? You've told me in the past of a few stories, so I'm just asking if you could tell them again for us.
Oh, Doug, the scar tissue. Some of my favorite stories, a couple of them, we had a very large banking institution that was a client, and we actually happened to bank there as well, which is always good business to patronize your clients as well. And I can remember, these are back in the day here, where we were depositing checks and what have you, and I get a call from this bank, and they're saying to me, well, you can't draw upon this until, I don't know, 7 days or whatever. And I said, well, I need to talk to the manager, because this was early on. This is 1987, maybe 88. And they said, well, you'll have to have your boss come in to talk to the manager. And I set that person straight. I said, I am the boss. Who's available? So you just have to be willing to, address those things. I believe in addressing things like that head on. There have been times, of course, when I've been cut out or marginalized or defined as something less than what I believe I am or who we are. And you have to have the willpower and the confidence to stand up in that moment. It's a draining thing, but it's a necessary thing. And you can have these conversations privately to straighten people out, which I have. But it doesn't have to be, a beat down, but it does need to be addressed. I've had times when I was pulling, again, early on, 18-hour days and walking home at this time, downtown Washington, 14th and K. And if you can imagine, back in the day when 14th and K, there were many young ladies who were, ladies of the evening. lining up at McDonald's, where I was lining up to get my meal for that day as well. And sometimes there would be some homeless people and they were asking for money and support. And, one guy said to me, well, you probably got to where you are by sleeping with the boss. And I said, I am the boss. So, it's a difficult thing. These things happen. You have to be willing to address them head on. But Doug, I will say largely, I have been so fortunate that these kinds of episodes and setbacks, whether they be financial, where people aren't willing to support you, fund you, deal with you seriously, take you seriously as an entrepreneur. I don't spend much time on those, to be honest. I am more about celebrating what the possibilities are and what the future is. Not that I don't address them, because I clearly have shared some of those with you, because they do need to be held accountable, because we all have to learn and recognize and respect each other going forward.
So one question and one comment. Did you keep your money with the bank after you were treated that way, or did you change banks?
I did. Yeah, I'm not I don't get sore over these things. I just take care of them.
And the comment is, you said that fear of failure really energizes you. Do you still have a fear of failure? Are you still dealing with that sort of every day? Is that still driving you, or what's driving you now?
No, I think it's healthy. I call it healthy paranoia. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think the word healthy is important. I think paranoia is important, because there's 50 agencies that would be willing to take our spot with any one of our clients. And I know that, which means we have to perform every day and earn their trust and their business. I think we have to be reliable communicators and handle people's money as if it's our own. So I think recognizing that and not spending too much time on celebrating your success, but look for where the next opportunity is, and have a healthy sense that some things are not forever and you have to earn your keep every day.
Well, when you mentioned being paranoid, I could hear Mahan Tavakoli screaming through my iPad here, because he always quotes, and I'll get it wrong, I apologize, but I think it's Ina Grove, the former chair of Intel, who says only the paranoid survive. So that's been one of his driving forces, Mahan's driving forces through his career as well. So talk about your move here. I know that's just a picture behind you, but talk about deciding to downsize and to change your offices, and what went into that. What was the thought process of that, and how's it worked?
It's interesting. First of all, it's not a downsize in the sense that we have all the same clients. We're fortunate to have the same revenue stream that we had prior to September 1st, which was our move date. And we have the exact same number of team members, although we've added some, actually, now that I think about it. So we've been fortunate. When I referenced earlier that we were one of the fortunate few, I hesitate to even say this, because I feel like I'm so lucky. I should be humbled by it, and I am, that our commercial real estate lease expired August 30th. We had a full floor, again, on I Street, right, not too far from the Hay Adams. And we looked at the opportunity to pivot, which is a word that is overused, but given the COVID situation and the fact that nobody was coming into the agency, why not take this moment in time to reassess not just the significant amount of funding that we put towards commercial real estate, but how can we better serve our talent, our staff, our clients? How can we diversify our staff? How can we reach? Well, now I'll give you an example. We've expanded our social media marketing team to Oregon and Georgia and New York. And how can we be more inclusive and bring in the top tier talent that our clients need and expect? So we looked at it very differently. And I'll be honest, for the first time in my life, because anybody who knows me, I loved my office. I loved, and I don't mean my personal office, I mean the agency. I mean, I have a collection of over 160 advertising icons throughout the agency. I have a library of advertising history that goes back to the 1800s. Even though we're all digital in what we do, we recognize and honor the past of an industry that has really been an economic driver for the world. So I was very attached to that square footage in a big way. We overlooked Farragut. We had the cool food trucks there. You know, we had the Stanley Cup came there when the Caps won. We had all kinds of picnics and what have you out there. But this was a moment in time to reassess. Emotionally, it was hard for me. Intellectually, it was easy. The savings that we could reinvest in our people, in training, in technology, and doing things differently is beginning to pay off. And I got to tell you, our notion of attracting and retaining talent is really on an uptick. So people love it. Who wouldn't love getting free breakfast once a week? Who wouldn't love having happy hour provided every Thursday up on the rooftop with free Wi-Fi? I mean, not to do an ad for our current location, but the fact that we're co-located with people like Procter and Gamble and the University of Texas and some major brands that are now going to these kinds of facilities as either swing space for when things change with COVID, or satellite offices, or in our case, an expansion for a team that is growing. It's really remarkable.
So what's the setup you have there now? How does that, I've been to your other office many times. How does it work now in terms of offices and space? And you said
Well,
you're
first of
sharing
all,
space.
come visit. You know, I'm happy to host. I do wear a mask, but a fashion mask, but I have to add that. But we have squads. We acquired a number of squads that house different departments, and we have, you know, obviously all the technology, all the equipment that we brought with us. Everything's in the cloud, what have you. But so it was really a pivot from a technology standpoint. My own personal mindset as a CEO was actually probably the hardest thing. But intellectually, when you look at the balance sheet, when you look at the benefits, when you look at the ability to attract new talent, it's pretty simple to make that decision. Emotionally or not, I've moved all my icons home with me. Big Boy, which is over 9 feet tall, is down in the basement. But, you know, I love it. I absolutely love it. So we have a common space, which is the lounge that you see behind us. We have 2 full floors. We have 8 conference rooms. We have Wi-Fi on the rooftop. And like I mentioned, there's happy hour up there every Thursday.
So how is having 2 full floors in this building different from having a floor in your other building? How are you saving money?
Because our squads are what we're paying rent on.
And what's a squad?
A squad is, it's like a WeWork situation.
Okay.
So we've got a number of offices that we've put together. So everybody has, you know, a desk, a computer. But when you have people and even freelancers or visitors, clients even coming in, they can even sign up for an office or what have you. It just works so much better. And I've got to be the first one to say, you know, I'm a believer.
But it sounds like you had to do a lot of convincing to yourself to be a believer, that the emotional attachment to the old office and your attachment sort of as your vision of what it means to be a CEO had to change dramatically to make this move. What was that like going through that process?
Well, I mean, like I said, you know, I'm kind of a bit of a platypus. I'm a former art director who is now a CEO. So it's about a 60-30 or 60-40 split. And you have that argument, and, you know, you talk with your staff and you talk about other people and you talk with other CEOs. Actually, that's one of the joys, is counseling other entrepreneurs in making changes, not just this one, but other changes, and going through, some of the challenges as an executive. But it becomes pretty clear quickly what's necessary. And it was an opportunity. I see it as a huge opportunity, and we've made that turn.
So you said everybody's got an office. Are they expected to show up at the office? Are you doing a lot of work from home? What's the teleworking? What's the breakdown of that?
Yeah, it's a distributed workforce. It's optional. I'm there every Monday, so people know it's an open door, and they can certainly come in my office and what have you. But it's all distributed workforce, and it works. We've interestingly enough, I mean, in this world, in my industry, when you talk about pitching business and when you talk about delivering campaigns that have impact, whether it's Experience Prince George's or Roy Rogers or Chevy Chase Trust or the DC Lottery, you think, how can this teamwork of ideas really come to light? It does. And I think people are determined because they recognize not only the necessity of it from a health and safety standpoint, but they understand, and again, I'm blessed with a staff that is on board with this. They understand the discipline and the over communication that it takes to come out with brilliant marketing ideas that advance brands.
So we have a question from Tita Brett of how has your recruiting strategy changed in this new era? Now that you got new offices and you talked about getting people from around the country, even around the world, to help you.
So now it's a freeing feeling because you can advertise for openings, and you can even, in our case, we've been fortunate to have a fair amount of what I call boomerangs, people that have worked here previously in different capacities. And so now, whether they're in Texas or whether they're in California, they become part of a pool of consideration. When we look at some of the client needs, it's important to have diverse account teams, creative teams that bring different perspectives. It allows us to recruit differently and make sure that we're providing opportunity. So, recruitment has obviously for a long time been digital. But the fact that there's little or fewer barriers in terms of geography has been absolutely terrific. And even though there are some, hurdles, honestly, when you think about taxes and what have you, you just have to know the guidelines. You have to know the rules. You have to set yourself up for success, both for your employees and your company. But the opportunity to recruit nationally or even internationally is absolutely terrific. And we can be more competitive financially as well.
So the old argument about to be a successful advertising firm, you've got to be in New York City or wherever, is that totally disappeared or is it sinking very quickly?
Well, you've known me long enough to think that, or to know that I have never really said that brilliant ideas and great campaigns only have one area code. It's about the people. It's not about the location. And clients today are held to a very high level of authenticity, and brands and consumers are looked at in a different way than they were 5 years ago, even 5 months ago. So this is an opportunity for a firm like mine to, again, benefit from the talent that we have on staff. And I've been fortunate. Every one of these people have been in the end zone with major league agencies. Every single one of them bring that talent to this firm. And because of that, it makes us competitive, particularly since we handle a lot of consumer-facing accounts as opposed to political accounts or generally business to business. So we have profited from that. We've been so fortunate to work with the people we want to work with, do the kinds of campaigns that promote and advance their brands and make them successful, and identify budgets that can help propel their brand forward. And that's where the joy is. for us, at least for me.
So you talk about it's the people, not the location. I just want to tell a little personal story here. I have one of my cousins who's since passed away, a guy named Mike Hughes, ran the Martin Agency down in Richmond. And he was always told that you can't get past a certain size in Richmond. You got to move everybody to New York. And he kept saying, no, I'm not. I like the people here. I want to work with the people here. I think it leads to creativity. And he was very successful there. And I actually, this is the personal connection here. I remember talking to Cary after he passed, saying, "Hey, I have a cousin who worked in your field, and his name's Mike Hughes. And did you ever hear of him?" And Cary says, "Wait 1 minute." She pulls out her phone. She has a picture of him on her phone. So I'm forever indebted to you for that. That was quite a moment for me. That was very nice, very genuine. So thank you for that.
One of my heroes. I met Mike. I'm part of a national organization, the 4As, and I've learned so much from them and from colleagues like Mike. And my opportunity to visit the Martin Agency and the brand center that's there that has that beautiful portrait of him in their lobby. I admire him. I admire what he did for Richmond to help put them on the map, and that's really part of my personal mission. Is to put Washington, D.C. on the map as an advertising town, because our ideas can be as big, as good, as effective, more effective than just one little old zip code that's north of us.
Well, I again, a personal side, I got to say, I'm not surprised about the picture in the Martin Agency, because at his memorial service, I was really struck by how many pictures he had taken of himself. He seemed to like being in pictures. So
he was a terrific guy and a role model to the industry.
Yes.
He really was.
Yes, and he passed too soon. So the industry, you talked about recruiting, you talked about the space, you talked about the people, there's a location. Any other changes that have been accelerated by the pandemic for your industry?
Lots of changes. Obviously, we spend a lot of time online, as many people do. The technology, the drumbeat of technology tends to accelerate as well. I know many of us can't wait to pitch in person, because it is about the personal relationships. I talked to some of my LGW colleagues, and I said, I've always needed a place to go, people to work with, and something to contribute to. And I said, we're doing all that. We're hitting our financial numbers. We're making things happen for our clients. But for me, it's a bit soulless. I miss the people. I miss the people. It's about 50% as rewarding as it once was pre-COVID. So I miss everybody. I can't wait till we get back in the same room and can network and celebrate how we've made it through this together.
So we've talked a little bit about what drives you. You've talked about the people. You've talked about trying to position the DC region as a player in the advertising world. And we have a question from Mahan Tavakoli about all your experience in trying to brand Greater Washington. And where does that stand now, and where do you think it's going? And how are we doing in terms of creating a better brand than we had before?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, and I think it's an inflection point that, again, this might be the opportunity to revisit that connective tissue. And I'm all about regionalism. That's how we can continue to be competitive nationally and internationally as a destination for some of the top tier organizations, not just companies, but organizations that want to find a home, because we're educated, we're inclusive. We have more female entrepreneurs than anywhere else in the country. We have more Inc. 500 companies than anywhere else in the country. We have so much going for us that I think coming together around regionalism again would be critical. As I'm sure you're aware, and I know you are, through the Board of Trade, there's a connected DMV. The Council of Governments has done a lot, and I so respect Chuck Bean and everything that he's done. As you know, we were part of the Metro Now Coalition and trying to bring funding to that, because that's really the arteries, if you will, the heartbeat of the DMV. But coming together to market and I think heal our region is a valuable exercise for ourselves and for our future, as well as attracting the kind of people that we want to call neighbors and fellow business leaders to make this region successful.
And let's not forget the Greater Washington Partnership, which is sort of
That's
given us a
huge as
super region
well.
of Richmond, Washington, Baltimore. I mean, it's really,
That's right.
it's a different way of thinking, but I think it's something that's going to bode us well in the future, of course. So,
Well, in the federal city council, there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many people that have done so many brilliant things. I think, now is the time again to reconvene. I think we did learn some things. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. I think after the Amazon win, and I think after some of the effort was put around a regional cohesion, I think we learned that we can play well with each other. We can have a mutual mission. We can leverage all of our assets to be collectively successful. With the Amazon win, I think we kind of went back to our corners, but I would love to see us reconvene in a way that can be meaningful and have impact.
One thing that is a good result, I think, of the Amazon effort was that now in Northern Virginia, there's a consortium now of all the different counties, economic development authorities, and now Maryland is starting something similar with DC. We got to cross the river. We got to cross the Potomac to connect Virginia and Maryland and get them to work together much better. But I think there's some real hope there. There's some positive activity going on. And in regionalism is very difficult. In Leadership Greater Washington, one of our first class days is regionalism day. And really the lesson is it's not, to the new class, it's not easy. It's something you got to work for, you got to fight for. It's easy to go back to your own jurisdiction and advocate for that particular place. It's harder to say, let's look at it from a regional point of view. And I think we were able to do that for Amazon, and let's hope we can do it in the future for others as well. So.
Also, there's some interesting developments just in the last, say year or two. I'm also honored to be part of the Washington Housing Conservancy and the Washington Housing Initiative. You may have seen in today's Wall Street Journal, there was a big announcement. And I think this notion of, again, in the district, in Maryland, in Virginia, looking for opportunities for affordable housing for middle and low income workers that can provide opportunity neighborhoods so that we can, again, sustain the kinds of families and services for those families that are necessary, not just for each jurisdiction, for the region. So organizations that will cut across issues and forget about the boundaries, I think is an interesting thing to explore.
Are you talking about the announcement that Amazon's helping with a whole apartment building in Arlington to turn over or renovate into affordable housing? Yeah, that's a great initiative on their part. So they're to be commended for that. Plus all the housing affordability players in the region as well. So that was good news.
So other things, I think there's opportunities when we look at employment. I'm also part of an organization on the board for Year Up here in the Greater Washington area. I think, closing the opportunity divide is key. And so there's so many things that we can do regionally within organizations that cut across those geographic boundaries, but address issues that have consensus around things that need to happen to advance our region. So pulling that together in a thoughtful way, I think is another way to reconvene a critical mass so we can get back on the beam in terms of regionalism.
So the 2030 group was really a leader in that effort in terms of funding and pulling people together. They seem to have stepped back a bit. Are they still going to pursue that? Are they looking for someone else to do that? I mean, where do you think that falls now?
I haven't been in touch with them recently, so I'm not as fluent on that. But Bob Buchanan, really spearheading that for so many years, really made a difference in pulling again some of those organizations, the tried and true organizations that have been leaders here in a thoughtful conversation. Many of those private conversations that need to be had. That I think was the beginning of that. And this happened, long before the Amazon RFP even was in play.
Yeah. No, it did happen before Amazon. I think one of the as you said, everything sort of took a back seat to Amazon and working with that. So this whole branding effort that we worked with you on got sort of pushed to the side, and I hope it does come back together. Maybe we can play a role in helping make that happen and trying to do some of that. I think we've got a great story to tell the world if we get through today without much violence or whatever. So we'll see what happens out there in the world. But
Well, maybe you
anyway,
can reconvene the group. Maybe that's
okay,
your role.
yeah, well, we were involved in that. We'll take a look at that, see what we can do for that. I think that would be helpful. I think it's something that's clearly needed in the region, and will be very helpful to all of us to help market us. So any leadership lessons that you've learned over the past 8 to 10 months because of this? I brought up your early days, and you keep saying it's back in the day. It's not 1920. It's the late 80s where you were experiencing all this, which is kind of sad from my point of view. That's only as far as our society had gotten by then. But I brought up those because did that help sort of train you, educate you to deal with what's happening today? And what lessons have you learned over the last 8 to 10 months?
Yeah, it's been fascinating, and this is going to be a sorry remark, but it's an honest one. When COVID first hit, and I did get my head around the magnitude of what we were all dealing with as a country and regionally, and certainly my own business, my first feeling was that it was oddly familiar, which is kind of an unfortunate feeling because I felt like I had been through so many things before. But here's the virtue in that. Because I have that scar tissue, it's made me better. I got the financial information around me that I needed. I, took charge and pulled together a COVID committee within my own company, different, not just different departments, but, different influencers, different perspectives, a diverse group, if you will, to see how to play this out. It allowed me to honestly help others. I was talking with other entrepreneurs and other CEOs that were finding things challenging. And I was giving advice only out of my own experience for whatever that was worth, but at least it's counsel. At least it's counsel. Sometimes it was information, not just on the financial side of the ledger, but emotional. The pride factor runs deep for entrepreneurs. Admitting that you're having a setback for entrepreneurs can be tough. Having those conversations with your family can be triple tough. Feeling like you're a failure is pretty hard. So counseling people in a way to let them know they're not alone. I mentioned to you earlier, I was also fortunate to do a webinar for the DSLBD for the District of Columbia for small businesses, sharing my scar tissue, what I did, financially. Even I counseled some people about, you may want to merge with your best competitor. These are strategies that need to be thoughtfully examined, because if your goal is to survive and thrive, you have to look at things differently. So sharing that experience for me is like dopamine. I got so much energy out of that. It was so rewarding that the scar tissue that I had gone through, some of the tough stuff I had gone through, could help somebody else was a real blessing for me. So learning, to share with others that there's going to be times when you feel like you want to, crawl up in a corner. Take that moment. Self-care is important. Having honest discussions with your family, acknowledging what you're going through, looking for resources. In this case, the seminar I was giving was looking to the district government for funding, telling them how I had dealt with PPP, all these things that for me was energizing. And I hope for them it was helpful. So learning about being helpful to other people was a reward in and of itself. Counting on my people and trusting my team was another interesting lesson, because They have come through with flying colors, and I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the work we've done. And I don't want to act surprised, but I was concerned because you worry about your team. You worry about their mental health. People have lost their loved ones during this time. How can you be supportive? We've used humor. We've used all kinds of, different webinars, and many people have. But, finding those innovative ways to provide a sense of, I won't say normalcy because this is not normal, but finding a sense of humanity and humility and compassion goes a long way. We even sent out packages to our team that had, extra day off coupons and, different kinds of candies and masks, and my favorite social distancing socks cards, and, socks that say, I'm fine, 2020. And, to try to have some sense of lightness about something that's extremely serious, but then talking to people individually to see how you can help them in what they're facing. All of that was a lesson and a blessing for me.
So talking about trusting your team leads us into a question from Maria Rodriguez. Do you think it will be easy to manage teams when some are together in the office and some are distributed across the country/globe? How do you anticipate creating a close-knit culture once many return to the office but others don't?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And it's a hard one, particularly time zones, right? So, but here's what I'm finding. People are working all interesting hours. Those of you who know me, I'm up at 4 a.m. I know it's like dark 100, it's crazy. But we have people that do their best work at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning by their choice. So there is a meaningful amount of attention paid to the respect of boundaries and hours, and giving people slack in terms of contributions and performance. On the other hand, we're finding, and this was a lesson for me, celebrating the little wins are a big deal. New ideas, new campaigns. I mentioned early on, shooting 6 television commercials remotely, safely during the time of COVID was a big deal. It was a big deal for our client, but it was a big deal for my team. So celebrating those things provides cohesion and the connective tissue that keeps a team together.
I agree with the celebrations. And back when I was in Montgomery County, when Silver Spring was a pit, and part of my mission really in Montgomery County was to revitalize downtown Silver Spring. We would celebrate anything that happened in downtown Silver Spring. If we tore down a building, anything we did as a celebration, let the public know something was happening. We weren't opening up the AFI Silver Theater yet, but things were happening. And it energized the staff to know that, hey, we're not wasting time here. We are making progress. It's slow, but we're making progress. So I think that's a great tip for people to do that celebration as you go along. Don't wait for the big things, but celebrate the small things that lead to the big things. So.
And also it was the notion of pulling in people to create the future normal. We call it not the new normal, but it's the future normal, because we have a saying that people support what they help to create. That is doubly true now. People want to have their opinion recognized. They want to contribute to what the agency looks like going forward. This relocation was the beginning of that. People definitely got jazzed about this. I was fearful they wouldn't. As you said, Doug, I was the bit of the holdout, but I'm on board.
Well, Cary Hatch, let's look at where we come just in this conversation. We started with you as a young single woman buying a company at the age of 30 and dealing with a lot of issues to get that going. You went through a period where you were reaching out to people like Mike Hughes and others in your national association to be mentors, to be advisors, to give you guidance, to now where you are the mentor to a lot of people. You talked about what a rush that gives you when you're able to provide advice, both professionally and personally, to people as they look to you for guidance and help. So that's quite a career, Cary. Congratulations to you. That's very nice.
It's been a lot of fun. You mentioned earlier, can you be successful and be in Washington? I spent some time reflecting recently on what is that metric of success, and for me, it's not headcount. It's the value of our contribution to the brands that we've been fortunate to work with. It's the people and experiences. And actually, the people that have started with us that have gone on to work at Razorfish or Google or what have you, I can't tell you how rewarding it is to have somebody come back who was an intern 30 years ago and became a creative director for, whether at the time Blockbuster or now Netflix, and know that they started with us. That's to me is the kind of reward that I'm looking for out of not just my own personal career, but, a legacy for the organization and something that I hope to share in the DMV and elsewhere. One wise advertising executive once said that, this is the kind of moment where you have to kiss change on the lips. And God knows I've been through this several times, but now more than ever, you have to be willing to kiss change on the lips, because for those who don't, you are left behind. For those that do, it'll be a rewarding future.
Cary, I think you and I have been kissing change on the lips all our lives. So it just comes. And it's what keeps you going. I mean, it motivates you to anticipate, what am I going to do for you tomorrow? What new things are going to come up with? That's a very exciting place to be in your life, I think. So let me ask you, any good news that you have that you want to share with us? Any new things? And you did talk about, and what I liked about just through your last comments were that it's not the ad campaigns you did that you're going to remember, although you will remember them. It's the people, it's the relationships, it's the personal connection, the personal building that you did with people. And I think that's what strikes me too. It's people ask, what do you miss about politics or whatever? And it's the team I was with, the team of people I was working with to get things done for the people in Montgomery County. That's what I miss the most, working with those people. And now I've got a great team at Leadership Greater Washington I'm working with, and it's a lot of fun. And I hope we stay together for a long time because it's a great team. So.
Yeah, it's the most meaningful things in life are, helping to grow yourself, but really groom and grow others. And I am delighted. I mean, we have, and we laugh about this, but we have serial clients that, work with us time and time again. They get distributed all over the country, but, they come back to us headquartered in Washington. And it's such a joyous thing because that sense of trust and integrity and the work ethic that goes towards advancing campaigns as an economic driver for brands and causes and organizations that can change the country is something that bonds us together. And, that I've worked with Debbie Kaplan a number of times, and a dear friend, but she was my client at Sprint. So, it's just that web of delightful people, the talent you surround yourself, the impact that you can have, whether you're selling roast beef sandwiches or lottery tickets or advancing causes like regionalism in this area, or even national issues in working around making home affordable from a prior administration, is what makes life really rich.
So Cary, I'm dying to know, spill the beans, what was Debbie Kaplan like as a client? I know what she's like to work with. How was she as a client?
You're not going to be surprised if I say demanding, are you?
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Demanding. No, but delightful. Delightful.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's all we ever ask for, is to work with people that are tough but fair And honestly, she was tough and
Yep.
fair.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So Cary, thank you so much for the conversation. Any LGW members that you've reached out to during the past 10 months or have reached out to you for help or guidance or discussion?
You know, many, I've just been delighted. Not just the official events that you've put together, but just, personally phone calls and texts and things like that. Whether it's Mary Abijay or Mahan or Josh from Geppetto or, any number of people, Stacy Murchison. I mean, just tons of different people throughout the years, Ken Baker. I mean, the list can go on and on, but it's an organization that I hold near and dear to my heart. It's kind of my go-to when you want to talk with people that trust and admire, and that truly are thoughtful in their reflections. And certainly when I go with questions about what do you think, I so cherish those conversations, and I can't wait till we get together again. I'm a hugger.
I wasn't too much of a hugger till I joined LGW. Now I am a big hugger. So Chase has put in the chat room the survey link. So we're asking everybody to please it takes about a minute, please take time to fill that out and let us know what you think. And we always take a very close look at those comments to make improvements on what we do. And Cary, again, thank you. It's been great chatting with you. I wish we were doing this in person, but I will give you the final word today.
Well, thank you, Doug. This is just so much fun. And, I am reminded of something I recently heard. During times like this, you can be bitter or you can be better. I'm choosing the latter. And I hope all of us will, because being better is what we need to do to get through this and to improve our region and our country and the world.
Cary Hatch, thank you so much. It was great chatting with you. I hope to see you soon. I hope to be able to buy you a drink soon and we could just have a nice chat. So
I'm ready.
There we go. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us for our Leadership Greater Washington Frontline Conversation with Cary Hatch. And please join us again for future Frontline Conversations or Leadership Today webinars. And don't forget, we still have a few seats left for our Lunch at Your Laptop next week. So please sign up for that. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.